Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today I am making a mask. Obviously everybody right now is wearing masks. We live in Texas and we are required to wear masks if we are outside of our home. So I have made myself, my husband, and 3 of my kids all of these masks. I did learn how to make these masks on YouTube, but I just thought I would go ahead and record this and see if you guys were interested in watching. I've been using my husband's old uniform from when he was in the Marine Corps, and basically for the kids I use about 10-inch diameter circle, whatever. So I'm using like a Pampered Chef bowl. I turn it upside down and I line the rim of the bowl, and that's what I cut out. So I will cut out a circle and then I fold it into like a fourth, and then I cut each fourth. So basically, let me show you what I've got. I have, sorry about the quality of this video. I don't have my regular camera. This is on my phone, but this is my husband's mask. So I have basically 4 pieces of the puzzle here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So just 4 pieces. Like I said, this was his old uniform. He retired from the Marine Corps, so this is what I am using. There are no chemicals in this. Apparently there are some of them that do have chemicals, but this is not one of them. So what I'm gonna do is, now that I've got it all cut out, this one I cut out about 11.5 inches diameter. My youngest, my 8 and 10-year-old both have 10 inches, and then me and my son have, I believe, 10.5. I can't remember exactly. But what I'm doing is I'm taking the right side of the material on both pieces, and I am sewing the outer round edge together with my sewing machine. So I will sew this piece together just like that, and I'll put that to the side, and then I will do the same thing with these pieces. Take the wrong side again, the right side on both pieces. So right side and right side, put those together along the edge, the curved edge, and then once again I will sew the curved edge together. And then after that I will cut the edge of these on both of them. So cut the little triangle piece off, and then I'm gonna turn one inside out and put it inside the other. So let me show you what I'm doing at this point. So it's a really bad angle. So this is a different mask, and I am actually taking, I've already got the elastic sewn on here. So I am taking the edge and I'm just making a final stitch on the outside around the edge. And this mask is almost finished. I've already finished my son's. So I'm gonna finish showing you how I do this one, and then I'll show you on my husband's mask what I do next. Now I'm back at my starting point right here, so I'm gonna go just past the starting point and then I'm gonna back stitch. All right, so that is what it looks like. You can kind of see there's a little bit of slack. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but it's a little bit of slack right here. It's not tight, but then you can see how it's kind of sewn into the mask. Plenty of room. You have kind of your nose covering, and then you have your chin covered, so the whole thing is covered. There are certain masks where you can make like a pocket inside. You can make a pocket inside and put like a coffee filter in there. I have not learned how to make those, so if I figure that out, maybe I'll post that one next. But I'm gonna just show you the beginning process on my husband's mask, and then if you guys have any questions, just let me know. Again, I found this video on YouTube, so I'm kind of just remaking it, but I thought since I'm making the video, since I'm making the mask, I might as well go ahead and show you guys how I'm making them, because we are required to wear them out in town, at least in the state of Texas, probably in most states. So if you need a quick way to make a mask, this is one. You don't have to necessarily have elastic, but if you have like, I don't know, a ponytail holder, maybe, I'm trying to think of what else you could use, maybe just a simple piece of material to make the earpiece. It doesn't have to be perfect, but something just to go around your ears. So let me finish showing you how I'm gonna make my husband's, and then if you guys have any questions, let me know. All right, so as you can see, I have the two pieces of material together with the arches laying even and flat. I didn't pin it at this point, and I made sure that both of the colorful sides were touching each other. And then I go back in and do the second piece the exact same way. I have the curved part of the material together, and again, the colorful parts on both pieces are facing each other. And then I just put it in the sewing machine. I back stitch it normally, and then I will stitch the whole piece, back stitch it again, and then cut it off, and then I will combine the two pieces. So the next step is to take one piece of the material and flip it right side out, so that obviously the colorful side is facing outward. And then you're going to take the other piece with the right side in, and you're going to fold them together as you see here. So you'll have the 4 different pieces of material touching each other. You'll have one folded on the inside, one folded on the outside, and as long as the right sides are touching each other, you have it laid out correctly. And once you have them folded into each other, you'll bring the points to a close, and you'll cut the very ends off of those points. And then here I am cutting elastic. I did not measure, although I should have. I was just eyeballing everything, so it wasn't necessarily the best option. But I go back, and with the square or the triangle piece that I cut off, I am pinning the elastic to the right sides of the material. So I pull up the flap, and I pin the end of the elastic to the edge of the material with the straight pin, and then I will fold the other flap back over and pin it into the inside. So the elastic is touching the right side of both pieces of fabric, and you will see in a minute why it looks like that. That is how you get the elastic to the outside of the mask when you are done. I hope I'm explaining this correctly. Alright, so you know you have it correct. If you see where my thumb is, I am feeling the inside of the mask, which is where the elastic is. You don't see it until you flip the mask right side out. But that's the outline of the elastic is kind of where I'm holding on to. And then I will take it and I'm going to sew, I can't remember the measurements, just on the inside of the mask. I'd have to look and see exactly what measurement I used, but I just sew it enough that the elastic was going to be sewn into the material. And on this one, I go almost all the way around, but I leave about 1.5 inches of space so that I can flip the material right side out. So I sew almost the entire thing, not quite, And the other thing that I was doing is I was flattening the material where the creases were so that the material wasn't too thick. I also made sure to use a thick needle. The needle that I used was for jeans, so it was a very thick needle. And that is to make sure that the needle goes through those extra thick pieces of material. So it's on the top and the bottom of the mask, you get very thick and they get hard to sew through, so that thicker needle is important. So now that I have the two pieces completely sewn together, I just showed you the opening where I left it open, obviously. I'm going to flip the material right side out. So the wrong side of the material will be on the inside and the right side of the material will be on the outside. And now you see the elastic exposed. Like I said before, I had done it where I accidentally put the elastic on the outside, so when I flipped it, the elastic ended up being on the inside. So I had to go back and I had to use a seam ripper. So here I am folding in the edge of the material that I did not sew. I just take a straight pin and tuck it in, and then I'm going to go back around and I'm going to sew as close to the edge of the mask as I possibly can without obviously going over. The video that I watched, the lady actually ironed the masks down. I did not take the time to do that because I didn't want to. But like I said, I will link that video in this description. But I just went right along the edge of the mask as close as I could to the edge, and I just made one final border around the edge of the mask, and that was pretty much the end of the sewing part.
I watch you as you drive. Do you know I'm looking? And I can't help but smile. Do you know how much I love you? You put my favorite song on, I put my feet up, and we just sing along. And I can't help but feeling, just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? Forever. 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 I watch you as you sleep.
Okay, again, this is my husband's. It is huge on me, but it will fit him. He has a mustache and a bigger face, but you can see how it fits. But just a few tips that I wanted to give. Let me turn the light on. Let me see if that's any better. Okay, so tip number one I have is to make sure that you go bigger with your measurements rather than smaller. So you want to cut larger than what you think you're going to need versus going smaller, because you can always make it smaller. You can't make it bigger. You can modify it, just the material, you can't make it bigger. Tip number two is to make sure that when you're putting the mask together, to put the right sides together. I've many times put the cloth together and I had the right side facing one way and then I had the wrong side facing that piece. And when I sewed it together, it was backwards. So I had to undo it and redo it. Tip number three is have a seam ripper. So because I've already done this several times, I've had to redo several of them. So make sure that your right sides, when you're sewing your first pieces, are facing each other. So the right sides are the colorful sides, the wrong sides are the back part of the colorful side. So make sure you have your two right sides together when you first start sewing the mask. My next tip is go very slow when you are sewing on your sewing machine or by hand, whatever you're doing. Go very slow. There's probably gonna be mistakes made. Just go slow and relax. It's just a mask, but I do have, like on the corners, I have to use a larger needle. The needle that I'm using is a blue jean needle. So if I'm sewing blue jeans, which is what I did a few weeks ago, that was the needle that I would use. So it is a thicker mask because the material is thick, and I used a blue jean needle, and even that wanted to stop. So when it got to the tough parts, it would quit moving. So I had to go really, really slow to not like time out my machine. Tip, I'm trying to think. That was tip number 2. Tip number 3 is, I'm trying to think what tip number 3 was as I was sewing. With the elastic, you can always make the elastic longer. Remember that when you're putting the elastic in, that it goes on the inside of the mask. Make sure that the loop is not on the outside. So when you're sewing these pieces on, make sure that before you flip this inside out, make sure that the elastic is on the inside of this material, so that when you flip it, the elastic is now on the outside of the material. Many times I have done it to where the elastic is on the outside like this, and when I flip it, then the elastic is all of a sudden inside the mask, so you have to redo it. I've done that many times. So make sure that before you put the pieces together and you're pinning it like I showed you, that you are putting the elastic on the inside so that it looks like this and not like this. So put the two pieces together, put the elastic on the inside of the pieces, pin it, sew it, and then when you flip it, then the elastic is on the outside. Tip number 4 is, if for some reason your elastic is too short or too tight, what I do is I cut the elastic, and then I will take an extra piece and I will just sew the elastic, sew an extra little piece into the elastic. There's my kitty. Say hi, Leia. This is Leia. So yeah, those are my tips for making the mask. It's not perfect, but it is definitely something that will work well. You want to wear a mask, kitty? Something that has worked very well for us. It is washable. Obviously, you can cut the strings off of it when you're finished. It is recommended to wash them every day. Every time you go out and wear them, you need to come home and wash them. And sorry, my lighting is getting really bad, so I'm gonna go ahead and end this video. But this is the way that I make the masks. Again, I got this from another YouTuber. I will link her below because I don't want to take the credit for this. But this is the masks that we make. You can use whatever material you want. And from what I've heard on the CDC is that any child 3 years and older is supposed to be wearing a mask when you are inside of a building, so, or outside of your home, really. So yeah, that's how I make our masks. We have 3 kids, 2 adults, and this is what we wear to the stores. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.